Hey everyone, sorry I'm late. We were having pup problems. One gets on your lap, the other needs to be on your lap, but then the other needs to be on your lap. It's a little jealousy issue, but we worked it out. We're all good now. Everybody's good. Everybody's happy. Happy, happy, happy. Happy Monday. It's Monday. Mondays are great. Mondays are great, great, great. Okay, so first and foremost, I want to tell you that, apologize to you for some of the misinformation that was given out on Friday. Personally, I called the hearing a trial, and it was not a trial. It was actually a hearing. It's a motion hearing, and it's a motion to see if he qualifies for immunity under, I don't have it up in front of me, but I've said it 100 times, the section of the Georgia Code. And further, there was a lot of discussion about what's permissible as far as questions. So I did some research, and it's very important to me that you have correct information. And I don't want to be a venue that gives out incorrect information. So I researched everything we discussed on Friday, and I wanted to go over it real quick with you because I don't want anyone to walk away from this with wrong information. So if you'll bear with me for just a couple minutes, and then we'll jump into the trial. So the judge on the trial is Judge McBurney out of Fulton County. He is a Superior Court judge and has been since he was appointed in 2012. He went to Harvard for both his undergrad and graduate, or his law degree. And prior to being a judge, sorry, I wrote notes. He was the senior counsel for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia. So he has quite a bit of experience and knows what he's doing. Interestingly, he presided over the special purpose grand jury investigation into the 2020 election fraud. So that was Trump ordered the special investigation, and I believe it was an 8-month-long trial, investigation with, a panel of 12 jurors. They heard from 75 witnesses over the course of 8 months, and he presided over it. So it was a big deal. And interestingly, I kind of liked his quote at the end when they asked him about it. He said, "It was of great public significance. It's a privilege to be involved with that, and I hope my role didn't interfere with what really needed to happen, which was to advance the investigation in any direction it's going." So he seems to have a little bit of an impartial mind. What the heck? Well, that's no bueno. Hold on, guys. Technical malfunction. Okay, are we done? Are we going to work? Yes, no? You having a bad day too? I get it. I don't want to do anything either. All right. So as far as talking about the witnesses. Anyways, so we were talking about what it was. So we are listening to the motion hearing. He still has not issued his ruling on the motion. He still has it under advisement. So if he issues his ruling in favor of the defendant, then he will basically have the charges dismissed against him. If he doesn't, then they're going to proceed with the case. They have a final plea is due by 5/23. So if they're going to enter into a plea agreement, it has to be done by the 23rd. So he will obviously issue his ruling prior to that. And then if it's going to proceed to trial, it's scheduled for June 7th. So that is on the docket already. Now, as far as the court, meaning the judge, asking questions of the witness. This is from the Federal Rules of Evidence. And it says the court may even call a witness on its own, and each party is entitled to cross-examine that witness, and the court may examine a witness regardless of who calls the witness. So either defense or prosecution has the ability to object to the court calling the witness. And like I said, this is coming from the Federal Rules of Evidence. So a judge has absolutely every right to question the witness, like we saw. And then there were just some further notes on there that said, one of note, the judge is not imprisoned within the case as made by the parties. So they have the authority to question a witness. The authority of the judge to question witnesses is well established. And they're citing a case that goes back to 1965. So this is obviously it was discussed improperly. As far as jurors questioning the witness, this is from the U.S. courts, and it is the jury instructions, and it provides them with two options on how they're going to give instructions to the jurors regarding questions. And there's one option. Option one is for judges who want to disallow jury questions explicitly, and option two is for those who want to allow jurors to submit their questions. So this is the U.S. courts saying that this is allowed or disallowed, depending on what you want. And Florida courts, so I was wrong on this too. I did not believe Florida courts allowed questions, but they absolutely do. And this is from the Florida Bar, and it's a pamphlet for potential jurors that gives you kind of a summary of what to expect if you get jury duty. And it says, the court will permit you to submit questions at the end of each witness's testimony. I liked the next one. Don't try to be an amateur detective. But in researching it, so there's several courts that absolutely do not allow questions. Texas does not allow questions. Mississippi explicitly forbids it. There's other states that require that the judge allows the juries to ask jurors to ask questions. So it's kind of across the board on yes or no. And then the rest of the states, it's up to the court. So it's the judge's discretion whether he wants to allow questions to be asked or not. So when you were told that that doesn't happen, that was incorrect as well. So I hope that clarifies a few things. I know it probably doesn't matter to a lot of you, but those of you who it does matter to, I don't want to be the one to give you incorrect information. It's important to me that I'm helping you learn something and you're not walking away from here with wrong info. So with that being said, today we have several of the officers who are going to be testifying. And then following that, and also the body cam footage, which is kind of interesting. And following that, we have Mr. Cooper finally, and this will be the end of this case. I think it's just a little over an hour, 20 minutes or so. And then we're donesies, and then we got to find something else to do. Fun times.
Get Officer York in here, please.
Where he
Hey.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Go ahead and watch your steps as you walk to the seat. Get as close as possible to the microphone. You want to state your first and last name for the record and it's other press.
Brian York, BRIAN YORK.
Good afternoon, Mr. York. Thank you for being here.
Mr. York, where are you currently employed?
On
I
time.
work for myself. I'm a custom home builder in West Georgia.
And were you previously employed by the Atlanta Police Department?
Yes, sir.
And how long were you employed there?
About 3 years.
And what years were those?
It's 2019 through 22.
And during that time, were you a post-certified officer?
Yes, sir.
And what were your general duties as a patrol officer?
So I started on patrol, and at the time of the incident in question, I was on a specialized unit. We did investigations, undercover work, crime suppression, different things like that.
And were you assigned to a particular area within the city of Atlanta?
Yes, sir. Zone 2.
And can you just describe for the judge, I'm not sure if he knows where Zone 2 is at.
Basically, North Atlanta, say Lenox Mall. The south lines would be kind of where you hit the top part of downtown, and then Cheshire Bridge Road. It's kind of that corridor up there on the north side.
And as part of your duties as a patrol officer, do you often have to respond to Grady Hospital for a myriad of reasons?
I've had to go there many times. Yes, sir.
And I want to draw your attention to the early morning hours of May 16th of 2021. Do you recall assisting on a person shot call?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the judge kind of how you got involved in this case?
So I was at Grady Hospital. I had apprehended a gentleman who got rejected at the city jail. Normally when they're intoxicated, they won't let them in. So they take them there's a jail in Grady. So I was on my way home, walking out, and as I'm walking out, cars pulled up and people were frantic, and you could tell a situation had happened, and it's my duty to be involved. So I did my best I could to help.
Wrong place, wrong time for you.
It's the story of my life.
And so during this scene over at Grady Hospital, did you learn that there were two individuals shot in a single incident?
Yes, sir.
And was that initial incident location at 688 South Elizabeth Place?
We did find that out eventually.
And is that located in Fulton County?
Yes, sir.
And 688 South Elizabeth Place, is that in Zone 2?
No, sir.
Where is that located?
I believe it's in Zone 1 on the west side.
Now, while you're outside of Grady and there's this commotion going on and there are people shot, did you have an opportunity to interview the defendant in this case, Mr. Phil Thomas?
Yes, sir.
And this was at 80 Jesse Hill Jr. Drive.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what happened during your interaction?
So after everything had calmed down, the paramedics and hospital staff had gotten the people who needed medical care, towards where they could triage them. I was trying to figure out what happened. I had no idea anything. So I was speaking to everyone as if they were witnesses. And so that's the first person I went and spoke to. My understanding at the time was that he was operating the vehicle. I saw identification in the vehicle of the defendant. And so I just went to ask him what happened. I had no knowledge of anything of the whole incident. So I was just trying to figure out so I could get information across to other officers.
And as an Atlanta police officer, were you equipped with a body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
And are those cameras used to actively record police-citizen encounters?
Yes, sir.
And did you have your body-worn camera recording during this interaction with Mr. Thomas?
I did.
Your Honor, I'm showing defense counsel what's been marked as State's Exhibit 1. Mr. York, handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 1. Do you recognize this disc?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
It's footage of my body-worn camera from that morning.
And you've had an opportunity to review it?
Yes, sir.
And are there any material alterations or deletions to it?
No, sir.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of what you were a part of at Grady Hospital on May 16th of 2021?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would tender States 1 into evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
States 1 is admitted.
And you said previously that you had a conversation with Mr. Thomas about what was going on. Was he considered in custody, in your opinion?
No, sir.
Was he ever restrained physically?
No, sir.
Was he ever threatened or coerced?
No, sir.
Did he freely and voluntarily give you a statement?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever read him his Miranda rights?
No,
Is there a particular reason why?
I didn't consider him to be in custody at the time that I was talking to him.
And Your Honor, at this time, the state would request to publish a portion of Mr. York's, or at the time, Officer York's body camera. I can proffer to the court the entire length of this body cam is 75 minutes long. However, the statement the state is seeking to publish is approximately 9 minutes.
Okay. And you're free to publish whatever part you want, whether it's Ms. Foster or Ms. Hawkins. I'm happy to hear other parts today, or to be directed towards other parts, or grudgingly to be told, watch all 75 minutes, because I'll do that if that's what we need to do to get the whole context. But certainly you can play your 9 minutes. If you are sharing video with audio, and clearly the audio is the important part here since it's a statement, make sure you check the little box when you're sharing screen in the lower, I think it's the lower left-hand corner, but there are a couple little boxes that say share audio. Make sure you do that so that it flows through the system.
And that's D1. I mean, that's.
And I don't see your machine on here. Ms. Jackson's is, are you? We've got Ms. Franks, Ms. Jackson. Oh, there you are. You're on there. Never
I
mind.
didn't signify ADA.
No. I missed it. It's right there. Who's Ms. Franks?
He's with our office, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. All right.
Did you all catch that he's no longer a cop? I think he remodels homes now.
I'm going to 9 minute 45 second mark of this body cam.
Are we gonna do petty and start there? Can you start at 9:34 or 9:30?
9:30?
Yeah.
I can start at 9:30. Or how about 9:28, because it's easier to get my mouse there.
928.
Audio, sound.
Doesn't just ghost us, but we need to make the car a crime scene, so never, don't let him go in at all, because he's possibly a suspect. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And move it. So did you?
Come down to Grady, dog. Come down to Grady.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Because based on our transcript, I don't know if he jumped. Did you skip that part?
Took it right to, you want me to take it back to 9:23?
This, based on what you sent us, it's at 9:34. So I just want to get that part in.
Info, correct?
Oh, we do have, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna stay next to him so he doesn't just ghost us, but we need to make the car a crime scene, so never, don't let him go in at all,
Gotcha.
because he's possibly a suspect. Okay?
Gotcha. Yes, sir. There's a police officer here now. Come down to Grady, dog. Come down to Grady. On everything. Come down to Grady. I'm finna talk to Officer York now. Come down to Grady, dog, right now. All right.
Yes, sir. What?
Officer York, okay. We was at a,
And that's the only weapon you had. I saw your carry license.
no, that's my carry license.
You don't have one on you?
No, 20-year veteran.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Everything that's said.
I we're gonna just hold the car as the
All
supervisor
day.
wants to hold the car for
Do
now. So
any-
what happened today,
Do
sir?
any and everything you need to do. We had a situation. We was at a barbecue
Yes, sir.
today. We was at a barbecue.
And what happened?
Everybody was getting ready to leave with fraternities and everything else. Attitudes started shifting. This gentleman, I don't even know this guy from a bucket of paint. This gentleman started popping off at some of my chapter bros.
Yes, sir.
My chapter bros, Officer York, approximately 50, 60 chapter bros. But the gentleman that was popping off, in difference to my chapter bros, is also our fraternity brother, different chapter. You feel me? So, at that point, stuff got out of hand. I checked him. Somebody else had words from him. Everybody about to disperse in front of, and the school is, this will give you an idea where we at. The school is John Lewis
You
Academy.
said John Lewis Middle School?
Bankhead.
Yes, sir. Right
Yes,
at the Bankhead.
okay.
And you
88 Elizabeth.
guys were on Elizabeth
Yeah, at the house right across the street.
doing the barbecue thing.
Yes, all us chapter bros, we've been doing barbecues at that house and for the principal of John Lewis for years.
Yes, sir.
Before John Lewis, it was Ben Carson.
Yep.
Okay, now, so we there, this, that, and the third. So the guy kept popping off. Me and the guy had words. Him, the guy and other people had words. So I'm like, hey man, this is not the function. You're not part of this chapter. Though you part of our fraternity, this is not the function for this, and the third. Prior to that, I talked, and the phone records will show if y'all pull them. I talked to some of his chapter bros like, this ain't cool. Let this go, boom, boom, boom. Everybody's starting to leave. I get my gun, put it in the front seat.
Where it is right now.
Got a retired military. Got my paperwork for the Cab County
Yes, sir.
and everything else, this, that, and the third.
I saw your carry license.
I'm an educator. I'm associate athletic director for Morehouse College.
Very cool.
I'm a model.
All right, you guys tell me. Do you think he's still drunk? Intoxicated on some level. Drunk implies a specific level because he indicated that he was completely sober by this time in the night.
Doing everything, this, that, and the third. So we get in the car. This guy still having beef, talking shit to everybody. I'm like, dude, that's not even necessary. I fuck you up, this, that, nigga, I'll kill you.
Was everyone intoxicated or?
First of all, not
It's okay.
everyone.
It's okay.
50%.
A lot of,
50%.
a big group were.
I'm like, dude, that's not even necessary.
I was mostly talking about the people in the
Okay.
dispute.
You are Phil Thomas.
Yes, sir.
This guy coming, I'm like, where's my gun? I'm taking my gun, put it in the front seat, taking my charger from the house, put my charger in the front seat, put my towel in the front seat. Everybody, time to go.
Like the video,
Oh,
not the volume.
I mean, it's not syncing up exactly. Is there body movement that's essential or is it the audio?
No, I just want to make sure that it wasn't discussed.
Yeah,
Fine.
no, it's our system.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably his computer.
But go ahead. I don't have an objection. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
I wasn't going crazy.
He rushes talking all this loud stuff. I fuck you up, this, and that. Honestly. Everybody backs up like, who this guy? He's saying all this, and I'm like, dog. It ain't that type of party. Let that go. He rushed me in self-defense. I'm like, yo. And I point my gun at him at the discharge. He drops. Everybody scatters. I'm being transparent.
So he was rushing you
He rushed me at the Elizabeth.
to fight you or?
Fight, harm, whatever the case may be. He's
What were you
rushing.
thinking when he came at you?
He was trying to harm me.
Okay.
I had my gun, this charger, my cell phone, my car keys. Dude, what are you doing? Fuck you. You this, that, you ain't shit. I kill you, nigga. Whoa, bam. Did that. Wait a minute. drop this, drop my car keys.
How you doing? You good?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. Drop my car keys, drop this, drop my phone on the ground. Whoa, what the fuck? After I discharged. 12 o'clock. My frat brother, Swain, that we put in my truck to bring here, over here at 9
We
o'clock.
just got out of the back,
Yeah, he's at 9 o'clock.
right beside you,
I don't know what happened. I'm at 12 o'clock with this knucklehead.
and you're zoomed in on.
I don't know what happened at 9 o'clock. Everybody started to scream, this, that, and the third. By 12 o'clock, it's a gentleman. Somebody grabbed him and they disappeared. I'm like, man, that's fucking bullshit. At my 9 o'clock, I see my frat brother, i.e. my mentee, Swain, what the fuck? Everybody like, what happened? We don't know.
So when you turned around, what did you see?
We just saw him balled up in
Okay.
the fetal
You
position.
didn't hear anything? It's completely normal. Auditory.
grabbed
excuse,
him.
You're in a stressful thing.
Me and the gentleman that rode with me, Jamal Carter, we all frat brothers. We grabbed him. He's a school teacher like myself. We put him in the back of my car. We come straight here.
And I did see.
We come straight here.
See, I don't even work the area that this happened in,
We
but I
come-
saw that people were en route here.
We come straight here. Because I don't know
If you
what
wanna-
happened to him.
When he got hit in the leg, that's an artery spot.
He's 9 o'clock.
Yep.
By 12 o'clock, saw this guy rushing me and the guy that was in the passenger side with me. Motherfucker, do you I kill you. I got my weapon, my charger, my, not to scare you. I'm reaching for my, I'm not saying you that tight. I'm just reaching. I got
Well, I saw
One,
your gun in there, unless you're
2,
unless
3.
you're John Wick.
No, I got 3 items and my gun.
And then that in that
I got-
what's in that pocket?
Oh, this is all of my
No gun in
ID
there.
cards. No, all my ID cards showing military, this and that.
All right, so look,
I gave this.
what's your first name, sir?
My name is Philip.
Philip.
Philip Thomas.
Can I call you Mr. Thomas or is Philip okay?
Whatever you feel
I'm gonna go
comfortable
with
to
Mr.
get this
Thomas
done.
because I'm a
Thomas.
Southern guy.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
Thomas.
raised- All right, so here's
We put the guy
here's what the
from
thing
my
is.
9
Hold on,
o'clock.
hold on. Let me, I understand it.
Yes, sir.
All right, now I'm gonna do this the right way as long as you keep doing it the right way with me, okay?
And I have no problem with that.
Right now, you're gonna be not under arrest, but you're
Yes.
gonna be detained. You are not.
Fine.
You're not free to go
Fine.
because this has got to get investigated.
Fine.
Now you're acting good with me, so I'm not even gonna put you in handcuffs to detain you because we got your gun over there.
Fine.
But I'm gonna hang with you until we figure out what we want to do with
And
the
I swear
person
to
who's
Jesus,
investigating
all
this.
that is fine. That guy that's walking up in that cargo shorts and that purple shirt rode with me
He
to
was
bring our fraternity brother to Grady.
Can you call him over here? Too?
Yeah.
Does he carry him?
No, he's a retired soldier like me.
And that's okay. I love guns. Are
Yeah.
cool.
Jamal,
Zone 1.
Jamal.
Zone 1.
And for the record, Judge, I'm going to stop the recording at the 18-minute mark on the dot. Mr. York, that was the recording of the statement that you took from the defendant.
Yes.
And at any point in time, did he ever mention anything about someone's hand being behind their back?
No.
Did he ever motion that his hands, that somebody's hands were behind their back?
No.
After you took a statement from Mr. Thomas, what else did you do to assist in the investigation?
Anything I could, just try to make myself useful to try to help, answer any questions anyone had. Maybe wait till any investigators were coming so I could just make sure that it was as thorough as possible.
And can you just kind of explain how the Atlanta police process is for investigating a person shot call generally?
When it escalates to that level, there's special investigative units that would investigate either aggravated assaults or if it rose to the level of homicide, the special investigators would come. And in the way that we work, it's generally, once you find out it's something along those lines, you kind of shut everything down and wait for them to come so that they can do everything the right way.
And in this case, did you transfer responsibility to another investigator?
At that time, I believe, just on my recollection, I transferred it to the Zone 1 officers arriving. And then it would have been their case from the beginning. And I just tried to make myself useful for any statements and anything along those lines.
Okay, I think that's all I have for now, Judge.
Okay, so it's a zone 1 case because Elizabeth Street is in zone 1. I think you're actually in zone 5 at Grady.
Yes, sir.
You were there because in zone 2, you had picked up someone who you tried to take to jail, but he was sufficiently inebriated. He had to dry out at Grady, and you were Johnny on the spot. You walked out and this situation presents itself, but you are ready to hand it over to zone 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Foster?
So just to follow up on what we were talking about earlier, what the judge did right there, he was summarizing his interpretation of what the witness just testified to and making sure that it was correct. Like this is what you just said. Is that right? Am I interpreting it right? And he can do that as long as he is not advocating for one side or the other. If he's just trying to understand what the witness is saying and making sure he understands the facts of the case, that's perfectly admissible. When he starts trying to sway something one way or another, that's when there's an issue.
Briefly, Your Honor. Officer, or you're not an officer anymore, you build houses. I might need to talk to you after this. But in your conversation with Philip Thomas, he mentioned several times that the person that attacked, that he shot, said that he was going to kill him, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I did hear that.
And you also spoke with the Jamal Carter?
I do not recall.
And in fact, Mr. Thomas said several times that he was at his car. And this Mr. Cooper, the person who was shot, rushed him and had told him several times he was going to kill him, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I heard him say that.
Okay, no further questions, Judge.
All right, Mr. Costello, any redirect?
No redirect, Judge.
All right, may Mr. York be excused by the state?
Yes, Judge.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
All right, Mr. York, thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Back to the home building. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll try to start up as close to 3:30 as we can. Sounds like that'll be Mr. Cooper. We'll take Mr. Cooper until about 4:25. I need to shoo all of you out of here because I have to go to another meeting. Briefly on scheduling for tomorrow, who do you have after Mr. Cooper?
I have an Officer Barnett and an Investigator McManus and then the statement rest.
Okay, and are they primarily getting in a little more footage or?
It would be impeachment testimony through a body, or impeachment statements through a body cam.
Okay, would their testimony be about the same duration as Mr. York's?
I would anticipate so, Judge.
Okay, all right. Ms. Foster, you don't have to commit to it yet. Things could change. But it sounds like you might call, I think it was Mr. Maddox in rebuttal, other rebuttal witnesses, or you need to hear more of what's coming?
If Coop is their only substantive witness, I think Mr. Maddox is the only rebuttal witness that I need.
Okay,
And Judge, I just want to let the court know, because I was unaware of this prior to it, and I think I made an assertion that Mr. Maddox was under subpoena. He was actually not subpoenaed by the state. We just called him and he was willing to come in.
okay.
He's never actually been served a subpoena.
Well, let's jointly try to get Mr. Maddox back tomorrow.
I have a subpoena for him because we relied on the state and he was subpoenaed.
Okay,
And also, Your Honor, there's a witness of the case that's in the courtroom.
okay.
He's not testifying in any motion, but he's a witness for the case. DeAndre Royals is the person that they're saying that our client called during the party and spoke to.
Okay.
He sat here and he's heard evidence.
Well, what I thought the request was and what I thought the appropriate ruling was is if you're going to be testifying during this proceeding, you shouldn't be here. Why don't you guys talk during the break about whether you want to press the issue of whether Mr. Royal should be in here for this proceeding, and also coordinate on how we can ensure Mr. Maddox is back tomorrow to testify. I'll be back in about 5 minutes and we'll pick that up and then get Mr. Cooper on the stand. Okay, thank you.
It's kind of hard to know what they're talking about when you can't see them. It frustrates me. But at the start of the hearing, they made it very clear they didn't want anyone in the courtroom that was going to be testifying. And the person that's in the courtroom may be called as a witness if this goes to actual trial, but not in this specific hearing. And so the defense doesn't want him in there, but he's already been in there for most of the trial. So what are you going to do? Let's see if I skipped this 5-minute break or if I need to fast forward it. I think I need to fast forward 5 minutes.
Situation.
Okay.
We have him.
And I actually, I skipped Mr. Royal's testimony because it really was not, it was boring. I didn't want to bore you guys. So this is Mr.
Situation.
Cooper.
We have him resolve it.
Situation.
We have him resolve it. That's going to be an issue because both Mr. Royals and Ms. Stadler are on the state's witness list, and they're
Not Mr.
pretty,
Royals, I'm sorry. The guy on
important
Zoom.
witnesses to the state's case. So I guess we would have to file. I mean, and he's a prosecutor, so I would think that he would know not to be in here when there's testimony going on about the case that could be used later. So we do intend to file a motion to exclude if this goes past this immunity phase of both Mr. Royals and Ms. Stadler.
Ms. Stadler would be
Mr. Swain's sister.
I understand her connection would be she was there. My understanding is that Mr. Royals' very limited connection to this is that that's who your client called. He was not present. He was on the phone with your client.
Many of the statements that have been made on the stand today from Mr. Swain come from Mr. Royals. And he can object, but we know that we'll be able to prove that at trial.
Okay.
And I believe that he sat here through Mr. Swain's testimony.
I don't know. Not my job to keep track of that. I agree with you. At some point, he was in the courtroom. You're going to file what you need to file, and we'll work through it.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Let's get Mr. Cooper in here, please.
So Mr. Royals is the assistant district attorney for Fulton County, and Mr. Thomas called him on the way to the hospital and said, hey, this just happened. So he is obviously potentially a witness to this. So that is why the DeKalb County prosecutors are up in Fulton County prosecuting this.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to report is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Have a seat, watch yourself, and you sit down. You want to state your first and last name for the record.
So this is Mr. Cooper.
Kendra Cooper, Kendrick, last name Cooper.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cooper. Thank you for being here today. If you could just do me a favor when you do answer any questions today, just make sure you lean real close to the mic. You got to make sure that the court reporter can hear you, judge, everybody on Zoom.
Okay.
Mr. Cooper, what city and state do you currently live in?
Dallas, Texas.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a pilot, private jet pilot.
And do you have any particular ties to fraternities?
I do. I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
And are you tied to any particular chapter?
I am the Mu Mu Mu, aka the Tri Mu chapter of Omega Psi Phi, which is here in West Atlanta.
And can you describe for the court how you know Christopher Swain?
Through the fraternity, Christopher Swain, he was involved in my process in becoming a brother of Omega Psi Phi. And when I was a neophyte or a new initiate into the fraternity, he held my hand through it all. So.
And how long have you known Mr. Swain?
What's 2023? 11 years.
Do you have any relationship with a Mr. Phil Thomas?
No.
I want to draw your attention to May 15th of 2021. Do you recall a particular incident that occurred on that day?
I do.
I want to start out with how you got to Atlanta that weekend.
Well, I just graduated from grad school that Friday, and I wanted to come home, so I came home.
And when you say home, are you originally from
Yes.
Atlanta? And when you came home for the weekend, what were your plans?
No real plans. Get around. That was really post COVID. I had just exited from the Marine Corps, so I wanted to just touch base, say hi. Nothing too crazy.
And when you were in Atlanta for the weekend, what were your lodging plans?
Well, I was staying with Swain like I would normally do. If we get too intoxicated or anything, or if it just gets too late, then I would stay with Swain. If not, I stay with another family member in East Atlanta. So it's really a matter of convenience, but a lot of times my stuff would just stay at Swain's.
And is Swain's house located at 688 South Elizabeth Place?
Yes, sir.
Is that located in Fulton County?
Yes, sir.
So while you're staying at Swain's house for the weekend, were there any particular events that happened at his house?
Absolutely. So I received a notification that Swain was just going to have a barbecue and just come by, and short term planned, and we came by.
When you say we, who's we?
I apologize. Myself, I had some more returning members with me, a couple family members, just a small little gang of us. That's it. If you need to know the names.
No. But I wanted to know if it was the royal we or if there was a group you were moving around with, and it sounds like it was some fraternity brothers and then their family members or your family members.
Mine.
So they were family members of yours in Atlanta, and that was partly who you were coming to see, or they had come with you into town?
No, they live here.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
And do you recall what time this barbecue started at?
I don't know what time it started. I just know what time I arrived.
And what time did you arrive?
Around 7 o'clock.
And was there any particular reason why Swain was having a barbecue this day?
I don't know why he had one, but I have no idea why he had one. Maybe because the sun came up and it was warm that day. I have no idea.
So you recall being involved in a few incidents at this party?
Yes, sir.
So, and there's more than one incident.
Correct.
And I want to make sure that we break it down so it's clear for the court to understand. Can we talk about the very first negative encounter you may have had at this party?
Yes, I was standing outside, and Swain's chapter, which is Phi Kappa Kappa PKK, they had new initiates. I'm out of the state, so I didn't know anything. I didn't even know this happened. So when I found out, I was excited. We make new initiates together as chapters, right? And I went outside, and I was standing outside, right outside the door, and I said specifically, hey, Neos, Coop, that's my name. Come over, let's talk. And that's when I was approached by Phil Thomas. I didn't know him, so he just starts talking. And age isn't a thing when you're on a graduate level. It's not like undergrad; everybody's the same age, right? So I didn't know who he was, and he just starts talking to me, and I'm like, "Hey, well, are you a neo?" Because that's who I just asked for. Then eventually he revealed that he wasn't a neophyte, and he had crossed 20 years ago, and then he starts berating me, saying that I was out of line, I was out of order, and I was confused because I wasn't. I had no idea what he was talking about. From that point, it kind of escalated. He started making it a little bit more personal as far as my chapter was concerned.
Okay. And I just want to stop you real quick right there, Mr. Cooper. So you said that you were engaging these neos, the new guys.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recall your demeanor being when you were trying to engage these individuals?
I had a smile on my face. It was a party. I was happy to see them. Happy to meet them. I didn't know they existed. I just found out literally because I met one. Right prior to that, I met one. I just met him, and
I love your username. That's adorable.
And that's how I found out. I'm like, hey, I don't know you. Who are you? And he told me. I said, oh, wait, 2021. You just got here. He said, yes. I was like, so there's more of you? It's like, yeah, there's more of us. Oh, I gotta go meet everybody. So that's when I went outside. I raised my hands and I said, come on, let's meet.
Mr. Cooper, is there anything that would offend the sensibilities of a member of one chapter to have someone in another chapter telling neos what to do. So these were PKK neos, not TriMu neos.
Yes, sir. Correct. I'm TriMu.
You're TriMu. So you're a different chapter. You're all Omega. And so there are many, many shared traits and connections and whatnot. But you're a TriMu and you're telling PKK neos, or asking, however we want to call it, but because they're neos and you're not, in theory, I'm guessing they ought to respond to your request or your directive. Is there any tradition that, wait a minute, that's not your chapter, so you're out of line?
No, sir. It is not. It's actually customary that, to go out to other chapters, to meet other chapters.
You could be an Omega from Alaska and you're here in Georgia and like, hey, there's some neos here. I want to meet you guys. Why not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the motto of our fraternity is friendship is essential to the soul. So the fraternity was founded and based on friendship. The only way you can make a friend is if you get to know someone.
And
So when you just kind of mingle around the party and get to know them, like you're making them line up, that seems to kind of call them out. I'm kind of curious if maybe they have a different perspective on like the intensity of that action itself.
you said you arrived at about 7 p.m. At what time are you engaging the neos?
I didn't really get that far, actually. It was pretty instant. 7:30, right? Around there.
And you said a few moments ago that Mr. Phil Thomas and you had some sort of exchange. Tell us a little bit more about that exchange.
And that was it. He apparently, I didn't know, but he had a history with making.
Speculation. He said he has a history. Actually, I'm going to say hearsay.
Okay, I'd go more with the hearsay. So why don't you rephrase the question? And maybe you can get there, but maybe not. So before you answer Mr. Costello's next question, let me hear what it is because Ms. Foster may have another objection.
Yes, sir.
So let me back up just a bit. So you and Mr. Thomas had gotten into a negative exchange. Just sticking to what occurred between you and Mr. Thomas, tell us what happened.
Well, he had berated me. He had told me I was out of line and out of order, and it really came out of left field. And he started to run down my chapter history as far as how we were founded, and he got really disrespectful about that, just in his words. And at that point, I was totally confused because it was just an odd situation, an odd interaction. It wasn't normal. And that's when Swain walked over, and I'm like, hey, what's up with this guy? Because I knew they were chapter brothers. I knew that. And that's when Swain said, hey, Coop, just go away. He's tripping. Go away. So I walked away.
So that was how this first encounter between you and Phil Thomas resolved.
Correct.
The two of you were separated.
Correct.
And this was just an argument.
Correct.
And just to give the court a timeline, how long did that argument take?
No more than 10 minutes.
He didn't really help frame the objection. He told her that that's not going to work. You got to try and get there a different way, or him. You got to try and get there a different way. I see that a lot in trials like this, and I've even seen judges like practically tell them how to answer it, which they're not supposed to do that, but they can help them get to the answers they need, because the bottom line is you want to get the facts. You don't want them to not get the information across based on a technicality. You also don't want the information to go across based off a technicality that means it shouldn't have either.
So at this party, was there alcohol being consumed?
Yes, sir.
Do you know if there was any drug use going on?
Not to my knowledge.
And did you consume any alcohol?
Yes.
About how much?
What time of the night? For the entire night, or?
Let's go from your arrival time at 7 p.m. till about midnight.
Just say 2 beers and be done with it.
say a few cups
Of what?
of liquor.
Okay, but like an entire cup of moonshine,
No,
or is a little bit of rum and a lot of Coke, or
25% of whiskey with some lemonade and Sprite.
what do you call that?
Some people call it whiskey sour.
Okay.
That's right. No sour.
You put ice in that?
Absolutely not.
At some point while you're at this barbecue, did you have another engagement with Mr. Thomas?
I did.
About what time was that at?
I'm estimating around 9. The sun had just set, and it was dark, so about 9 o'clock, 9:15, 9:30.
And tell the court what happened in this, we'll call it the second interaction.
Well, how can I put this? It was something that happened before then, in between. So
in between hey, you're out of line for calling on the Neos, and this second, there's something happened in between that.
yes.
Okay.
And it was just very minute as far as people were coming to me saying that hey, why do you have what's going on with you and Phil, going back and forth. And I stated several times to people, I don't have a problem with Phil. I don't know Phil. Like, I'm good. This is not an issue for me. And it just continued to escalate to where more people were grabbing me and pulling me aside, trying to defuse a situation that I wanted no parts of. And that's what leads us to the second part. So a profile of mine came to me and said, hey, what's going on with you and Phil? I told him nothing, right? But when it got to him, that's when I knew it was a lot of going back and forth between people. So now to our third, and I'm sorry. So I did. I saw Phil and I said, hey, like, what's your problem with me? Why do you keep bothering me? And he didn't say anything. He just smirked at me. He didn't say a word. And that was that. So now.
So we have a second interaction.
Yes.
You've gotten some information flowing through the party. You approach Mr. Thomas, and there's essentially 1 word, 2 words spoken between you two, a smirk, and you disengage.
Right. That was it. Right. And then from there, my pro fight, the guy who made me into the Frat, who's my chapter brother, he's older. He said, hey, what's going on with you and Phil? Nothing. I don't have a problem with Phil. He has a problem with me. You all need to handle that. I don't know the guy. That's when they wanted to have an intervention, which leads to about the 9 o'clock, 9:30, around that time after sunset. And they, which is a normal thing. If 2 brothers have a problem, you go talk about it away from people using.
I kind of feel like I'm in elementary school and like the teacher's pulling the 2 kids aside to sit and have them talk out their problems because they can't make nice together.
And discretion, right? So that's what happened. We went to the side of the house, and I assumed at first it was myself and my pro fight. I thought he
Can you what is the specific word you're using?
I'm sorry, a pro fight. So you have
How do you spell that?
PROPHYTE.
Okay. And that's the person who pledged you?
Yes, sir.
Got
So
it.
he's before me. My neophytes are after me.
Got it. Oh, okay. So neophyte, prophyte is before you. And that's not the guy's name. That would be a title or an honorific that you give him.
Correct.
His name could be Steve Jones, but
Absolutely.
his connection to you through the fraternity is he is your prophyte.
Correct.
And so you and your prophyte are going as part of this intervention.
Correct.
Okay.
I didn't know that this was an intervention. He just called me to the side of the house. He said, hey, cool, come talk to me. He was in the Army, so we talk, right? And next thing I know, I see some PKK brothers come over, and I see Phil. And I said, oh, hell, I know what this is. Because by then I was irritated because people kept bothering me, trying to stop. And that's why I didn't have, I was still sober, and I didn't have a lot to drink because people kept stopping my progress to party, right? And I told him, I don't want to do this. This is crazy. I don't want to talk to him. Like, he's been bothering me all night. I don't want to talk to him. This is stupid. This is not a we problem. This is a him problem. You all need to fix this. And so in Omega, we had deference. So if you're older, if you're younger, you yield to older brothers, right? Deference. So I crossed it.
Said earlier, other than when you're in school, age doesn't really matter.
But and I was about to say that, you know, I promise the crossing year always matters.
Okay.
So I'm 2012. I crossed in 2012.
Okay. So you could cross at the same time as a guy who's 99, and really what's relevant is when you cross. Someone who crossed in 2011 is your senior.
Correct.
He could be 10 years younger than you, but he crossed before you. So
Absolutely.
you owe him deference. You show him deference.
Absolutely.
Because his crossing age is older.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I was
signed up
2012.
first.
My pro fight, my chapter brother, he's 2007. And then to my knowledge, Phil is 2002. So my pro fight basically just told me, shut up. Like he just said, look, shut up. Like we're going to work this out. But I was adamant because I knew that I didn't know him. I hadn't do anything. So fine. Deference kicked in. I didn't say anything. The moment I stopped saying anything, because I said this is stupid, but I'll listen. I hear it out. That's when Phil began to call me out my name, berate me, type of MFers, N-words, things that I don't communicate that way. I don't call us N-words. That's not my thing. So, and everyone knows that. So I take great exception to that. And that's when.
Now, Phil specifically said that he said that. So now we have his story, her story, and the truth, I guess.
And I told them, hey, this is like, I told y'all he has a problem with me. This is stupid. So I proceeded to walk away. But how they were in West Atlanta, the old houses, right? You have the backyards and then you have a little small piece of the side yard that's fenced in. I was on the interior of that next to the AC machine. So when I walked away, I walked toward the front of the house, which was fenced in. So I couldn't walk away. So as I walk away, and I remember very vividly, this is when Phil called me out my name again. He called me a bitch ass N-word again. And this MF for this and this MF for that. And I had it at that point. I'm like, hey, what's really going on? And so basically he threw a drink on me, right? Because we had set our drinks on the AC machine. All right. So he threw a drink on me. And that's when I took a step forward. I'm not about to have anybody just throw a drink on me. So when I took a step forward, he tackled me, right? He tackled me, but the AC machine, I had stepped in front of the AC machine. And so the AC machine. So when he tackled me, I just rolled back and I put him in a cradle.
Can you describe what a cradle is?
Well, I'm sorry. It's a lower mount. So I'm on my back. He's on top of me. Almost like a missionary position. It's a jiu-jitsu move. I wrapped my legs around his ribs and I put him in a front headlock. And then that's what happened. So I put him in a front headlock and my intention wasn't to, worst case scenario, when you put somebody in this position, they will go.
Okay, I was picturing this like Phil's back on his stomach, but he just said like the missionary position. So he like laid down with him on top of him, face to face, with his arm around him. Because that's awkward.
Go to sleep. All right. You can put them to sleep via a blood choke. That's not my intention. I didn't want to do that because it's just not healthy. I didn't know him. So if you put people to sleep and their body can't take it, then it's a problem. They may not wake up.
That would be a problem.
Yes, sir. And that was not my intention. Not only was it not my intention as a person, and as a military professional, it wasn't my intention as a fraternity brother, because regardless of what static that we had, what issues we had, he was still my fraternity brother. In our fraternity, what you don't do is, you don't punch, you don't stab, you don't shoot, you don't do anything like that. You can wrestle. That's acceptable as long as it's discretionary. Now, publicly, that's not Omega. That's not what we publicly do or what the fraternity publicly condones, but that is a part of the frat that does exist nonetheless. All right. So from that point, I realized I knew what was going on. I realized I had him. So I let him go. Again, I wasn't trying to put him to sleep. So, and I told him in his ear, I said, just leave me alone. Like, just leave me alone. I let him go. His chapter brothers grabbed him, and I stood up, I dusted myself off, and I went inside the house.
So would you say that was how this third interaction resolved with Mr. Thomas? It starts out as an intervention and it basically ends with you having him in some sort of jujitsu hold.
Correct. And to that end, that's normally the end of it. That's why I dusted myself off. I walked away. I didn't go into the house and say, hey, look at me, I'm the champion. You know, that's bad form and poor taste, because that violates discretion. So I didn't say anything to anybody. Whoever was on that side of the house, I didn't say anything to anybody.
What does your pro fight do when he's telling you to be quiet and then you're choking this guy out? That's your pro fight.
Mm-hmm.
I assume you're supposed to follow his advice.
At that point, I didn't hear him. He was off to the side. I didn't hear him. It wasn't,
You didn't really care what he was saying.
Right. No one could. It's not that I didn't care. I didn't hear him if he had said anything at all. And it wasn't. I was in a position to where people can pull me off. Why? Because I'm on my back. He's on top of me, and it's an AC machine. So there's no way.
You guys are stuck.
Right. I have him. So that's how that worked. So historically, that's it. That's the end of it. There's no more conversation. Actually, we're supposed to have a friendly conversation after that. Right. We're supposed to have a drink and fellowship, and, you know, and get to know each other since that's out the way.
So
Theoretically, this is supposed to be helping show that the shooting was not in self-defense. I don't know that it's necessarily doing that, because he's kind of showing a little bit of that he was aggressive and there were incidents in the night. So
after this third interaction ends, you said you went inside the house, and what did you do next?
I had my family member, my brother was with me, and he's a part of another fraternity. So, you know, he didn't know what just happened. He says, "Hey, Cooper, it's time to go. We have a birthday party or some other party to go to." Our bags were at Swain's. Easy day. So we changed from our night party attire, just, you know, a tank top, some park stuff, and we start putting our suits on. And that's when I ran into another brother.
Now, when
Bruce?
To my knowledge, that's his name.
Okay. Another choke out?
Yes, Your Honor.
Busy evening.
Indeed.
Does this happen a lot in parties in you?
No, sir. Actually, no, it doesn't happen.
Okay.
Thing.
So tell us what happened with Bruce.
I was changing clothes. We were in the living room. Bruce it's an open concept. The house is an open concept. So the living room and the dining room, it's all one big room. My brother and I, we're both changing clothes. We're putting on my pants, my shirt's off, and we're just hee and ha. And he says, "Hey, why does this dude keep looking at you like this?" I mean, he's looking hard. It's kind of weird and uncomfortable. Like, hey, look at me like he's trying to eat me or something. And so that's when I say, "Hey, what's going on?" Because I didn't know Bruce. So I said, "Hey, what's your problem with me? Like, what's going on? You all right over there? You good?" And that's when he goes off. "I know who you are," and some other explicitives. And Phil told me this, and yeah, I know who you are. I'm like, "Hey, look, first of all, who are you? Let's just get this out the way." That's when he told me, and he told me his chapter and what year. I said, "Well, look."
What chapter was he? Was he PKK?
No,
third chapter.
It's the third chapter. And I said, I may be wrong about this, but if I remember right, the chapter that he said, I'm like, "Hey, we're going to your pro fights birthday party right now. Like relax. Like, I'm 12. He's like 15 or 16, something around there." I said, "Relax. Like, it's not that deep. I don't know you. I'm changing clothes. Leave me alone." It escalated. He started raising his voice. And that's when I cleared out the house. I told everybody to leave. Like, there wasn't a brother like, "Leave. Just so clearly you have something you need to say to me. I don't know who you are. I'm asking you to leave me alone." It didn't happen. And I was shirtless, and I had my pants on, but my belt was still undone. and he put his hands up, like his fists. He put his hands up. Well, he was about 6'3", 225, 240, around there. And that wingspan, I was within his wingspan. So if he would have threw a jab at me, it would have connected. That's just what that is. So that's when I had. You want me to say what I did?
Absolutely.
I hip tossed him and put him into a front choke again.
And what does that involve so the court is aware?
So when he put his fist up, I went through his guard. So I advanced quickly through his guard. I spun him, tossed him over my back, and then I held him down by his neck.
I need to see this. I don't
And
understand.
did anybody come to break up the
Yes.
altercation that you're having with Bruce?
Yes.
What happened next?
I let him go.
So at this point, you've had 3 interactions with Phil Thomas, and you've had 1 interaction with Bruce.
Correct.
What time is it?
This has to be around 10:30, 10:45, around there.
And you said you're getting dressed, you're looking to go out. Are you able to finish getting dressed at some point?
No, sir, because I ripped my pants. Moving Bruce, I ripped my pants. So I changed back into my shorts, my tank top, and packed up our bag. And I went out the back. I actually left my bag, and I went out the back. I was like, now I got to figure this out. Now I got to find more clothes, figure this out, because the intention was to still go to this birthday party, right? And we went out the back, and we went out the back of the house, and that's when.
And who's we now? Is this the same group you arrived with? So family members?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was. Because by that time, people had figured out what was going on inside the house. So we went outside, going to the back, and I'm frustrated. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I just got these pants. And I'm trying to figure this out. Point is, go out the back, sit on the patio, and everything.
Real quick, remember the second guy that testified where it was really confusing? He was talking about the commotion downstairs. This is the altercation he was talking about. And I told you they took him out of order, so it didn't make sense. He should have testified like after him. So this is what he heard.
Things fine until Phil is by his truck, and he's baiting me more. And, oh, there he is. Well, what's up? What's going on? I'm like, man, what more do you want from me? Like, this isn't how this is supposed to be. It's like, well, come on, come here. Like, what's up? All right, fine. So I go. And the moment I step forward, that's when Swain and a couple of their chapter brothers, they tackle me. And we fall onto the balcony. We get up and we go out the front of the house. And it was peculiar because it was a rush. Like the temperament of the people around me kind of changed. And now I know why, but I didn't know. So it changed. And so we went out the front of the house, and they were like, oh, just get in the truck and go. Well, now I'm like, I don't want to go. Like, I don't have to go. I don't want to go. And I want to talk to this guy. And it was several reasons why I wanted to talk to him, because now it had escalated to a point that it wasn't safe anymore. And I didn't know him. So my thought process was, I don't want to have a problem with someone in Atlanta and not know who they are. And I'm out with people, just having a good time, and I'm drinking. I don't expect a threat. So it's even worse and just tactically unsound to have a threat that you don't know about. So I'd rather just resolve this right now. And clearly he has a problem. He had a problem with me, right? And so I'm like, hey, let's figure this out. Like, if I did something to you, I'm sorry. If I did, like, I don't know you. That's my whole thing. So I'm like.
But he started it by saying that the temperament of them changed and he didn't know why. So how did he know it wasn't safe if he didn't know he had a gun?
I don't want to leave. I shouldn't have to leave. In between that time, if I may back up, Swain had approached me and talked to me about Phil. He had said, you wrecked Phil, basically over at the intervention. He said, you and Phil, y'all wrecked. I was like, yes. He said, well, he's pretty pissed. Swain said he's pretty pissed. I said, okay, well, all right. And he wants you to get out the party. And so I just stayed there and he said, but you stay here. Swain said, you stay here. We're getting him out the party. We're telling him to leave, but he's irritated because Swain said he's irritated because he thinks that we're choosing you over our chapter brothers. And I'm like, well, I got to figure that out. What do you want me to do? This is your house. He's like, man, you stay as long as you want. Like, this is what you do. And fast forward, I'm like, I don't want to leave. Right. And they put me in the back of the truck. And so when I get out, like, I'm telling them, like, I don't want to, like, physically put me in this truck. And I'm like, I don't want to go. Like, I don't have to go. Let's figure this out. So I get in the truck. I get out of the truck. And when I get out of the truck, I know where Phil is. So I advance towards Phil.
Where is this truck in relation to where you say Phil is?
We're looking at maybe 45, 50 meters.
Meters?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes.
You're just the first person who's used meters.
I'm sorry.
You can use any unit. How many leagues away were you?
Absolutely, leagues. I got it.
Yeah.
So we weren't close.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We weren't close at all. And it was a small group of people who, because it was that time of the party where either people were going to, leave, come, go. So people were still congregating toward the end of the street, right? Because that's where people were parking. So I get out, I move past them, and because I know where Phil is. Now he just told me where he was. So I knew who he was, and I see Swain. So I go around Swain, and there's Phil. And about the time I get to Phil, he's kind of in the shadow because he's next to his truck. So how the street was set up, like it was just a natural shadow. So as he's standing there, I get a little closer, and then I realize that he's in a defensive posture, right?
Can you describe what you mean by a defensive posture?
He's about a half a step away from the truck, arm behind his back, almost like 1 foot. He wasn't flat-footed. 1 foot was in a pro stance. 1 foot was in front of the other, right? And his right arm was behind his back. And that's when I realized that this isn't right. So that's when I stopped. And about time I stopped at the same time, he pulled his weapon and he squeezed the trigger. He fired. And so at some point I laid down, and when I laid down, I'm looking at him the whole time. I'm looking at you, and he didn't point his gun down. Like, he held his finger on the trigger. And I know that because I'm trying to look at that. And so I'm going through my checks. Like, I smelled it, I heard it, and I hear screams. I don't feel the gunshot wound yet. I don't feel it. And so, of course, I check my body, and then I realized that, hey, I have a hole in my body, but I'm still looking at Phil, and I can see the curve of his finger on the trigger. So at that time, I thought he was going to fire a second time because it was weird because the slide wasn't back on the weapon. So I'm thinking he has another round that he's about to let off. And he had me dead to rights. He had my chest, he had my neck, my body, he had my whole entire body. He could have did with it whatever he wanted to with it. And so I think this is it. I already took one to the gut, another one to the chest, and I was gone. By that time, I turned my attention. It wasn't that I didn't care, but something else caught my eye. And that's when Swain, about where I'm sitting to the wall, I see Swain pass out, like fall forward, like do a violent front flip, like a standing front flip. And it was weird because the last thing I remember was Swain was behind me. Now, at this time, I didn't know that the bullet had went through me. I had no idea. And so when people came up to me and said, hey, you're shot. And I'm like, hey, no shit. Right. Thanks for telling me. But go get Swain. Something's not right with Swain. And that's when people went over to Swain. Right. And then at that point, I don't know what happened, where Phil went. And frankly, I didn't care. And that's when I had to get people to, I asked people to roll me over because I needed to know, again, I didn't know that Swain got shot. I needed to know where this bullet was. And so when I realized, I asked them to roll me over and see if there was an exit wound. They told me there was an exit wound. I needed to know if it was bleeding. They told me it wasn't bleeding. My entry wound was not bleeding. So I knew I had some type of internal bleeding. I've seen this before. And that's when it became a rush to get me to the hospital. At that point, I still didn't know what was going on with Swain. No one knew Swain had got shot. They saw me drop first. So.
When you were exiting the truck, the car, whatever vehicle you were in, before you started going towards Mr. Thomas, was he engaging you in any way?
Outside of when we went out the back of the house, no.
So no words were being spoken?
Right, because he was so far, the house is pretty big. So he was way in the back. And we had traveled back through the house, the length of the house, out of the house, a few more meters to the truck.
About how far away were you when you were shot from Mr. Thomas?
We're about, it was about four to 6 meters. Yeah.
And you see the person who shot you in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you identify that person by their location in the courtroom and an article of clothing?
Yes. Black suit, gold tie, white shirt, or colored shirt. Mint.
Does he have a particular hairstyle?
Bald.
Does he have any accessories on his face?
Black glasses.
And Your Honor, at this time, can you let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant?
He has, it's Shell.
Mr. Cooper, were you armed with any weapons at any point during the day?
I was not.
When you were approaching Mr. Thomas, describe for the court how fast you were moving.
I was running.
And what were you doing with your hands?
Running. So natural running motion.
Did you say anything to Mr. Thomas prior to being shot?
I think it was something to the effect of, why do you have a problem with me? What's going on? Let's do something. Let's talk about it.
And what was the demeanor? What was your demeanor and your voice like when you were saying those words?
I wasn't whispering. I was yelling.
So remember, Mr. Thomas testified he was running at him, but he had one of his hands behind his back and he couldn't see and didn't know if he had a gun or any kind of weapon.
Did you ever use the word kill
No.
before you got shot?
No.
Judge, I don't think I have anything further.
No, I didn't hear that.
So my thought, Ms. Foster or Ms. Hawkins, is that rather than start cross-examination now and do it for 6 minutes, which is all we could do, unless your cross-examination is only 6 minutes, we ought to start with Mr. Cooper tomorrow morning, just picking up where we left off. Is that going to break any momentum you've got, or are you all right with that?
That's fine, Your Honor. I'll run towards questioning him tomorrow.
Okay. Mr. Cooper, I understand you're here from Dallas, but you may have flown here in a private jet. Hopefully you able to join us again tomorrow morning.
We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
I've sent an email out. I'm pretty sure I've got a plea at 9 in a triple homicide. It'll be good to plead that one out. I'd ask you all to be here at 9:15 just in case. There is no plea, but I won't make you get here right at 9 because if the plea is happening, we probably won't start till closer till 9:30. But everyone should try to be here by 9:15. We will continue with Mr. Cooper's testimony, and it sounds like we've got 1 or 2 officers or former officers who will testify, and that may be it. Other than, in theory, we could reopen evidence for Mr. Maddox if the impeachment material that Ms. Foster is looking for somehow doesn't come in through one of those officers. I think we should be done by lunchtime.
That's my hope, Judge.
Okay. We'll just have a late lunch if we're not.
When you say done, you mean argument and everything?
Well, we'll talk about what you want to do for argument. Sometimes people want to file something in writing, and other times people want to argue. I'm good either way. Except I've got this. Well, we will.
All right, they're just talking about scheduling and stuff. It's not important. I guess I didn't realize there's another video. I mean, I'm sure I have it, but yeah, there's another day's testimony. I thought we were done. I guess I just didn't process it with this one into one file. So we still have the cross-examination, 2 officers, and closing arguments, and then we're done. So far, is it self-defense or not? If I remembered how, I could put up a poll. Did that work? Yeah, I think they both need a timeout. But I thought it was entertaining in an odd way to see that, yeah, this really does go on, and this is how people get shot. And like, take a step back and breathe. Walk away from stuff. Don't, like, I don't know. I really don't know. So I guess we'll be doing this again tomorrow. Unless I feel great and I can pack my house, but I don't think that's going to happen. So we'll just roll with it. Do you know what's messed up? As I'm closing this out and have the ability to rant because the people who don't want to listen to it can just leave. I love watching the numbers. Every time I start talking, the numbers just go down of the viewers. I wish people would understand that this is YouTube's rules, not me sitting here because I want to chit chat. Sometimes. Right now, I want to chit chat. Do you know what's messed up? How are you supposed to buy and sell a house at the same time? Like, if you're not like Wonder Woman, Superman, when you're someone who takes a long time to do stuff, like walk across the house, how in the hell are you supposed to pack up and move one house and get into another one within like this 24, 48 hour period? There is no way on this earth. Makes me very upset. But I did learn there are options. There are things you can do. It just costs you a lot of money. Having a broken body gets expensive. Like having to make all these concessions and everything else, super expensive. But for anybody who has trouble walking, I came up with the greatest idea. I have trouble getting up in the evenings. Once I get into bed, I have trouble getting out of bed, and the dogs always seem to need to go out around 11 or 12. So they wake me up to go out. And sometimes I can't walk at that time. So I decided when I move, I'm going to build a screen room that has a grass poop patch in it. So the dogs can go out the doggy door into the screened area. So they're safe. They can't get out. No birds can fly down and, grab them, because that's always my fear. I had a friend whose dog got birded. And then they can do their business and come back in, and I don't have to get out of bed. Mom said, how are you going to cut the grass? I'm like, the dogs are going to pee on it. It's going to disappear. I'm probably going to have to get fake grass and hose it off every day. Artificial turf, whatever. Whatever works. But I don't have to get up. And then I don't have to worry about the cats escaping because I'm going to screen it in, and then I'm going to super glue the screen. Well, actually, no, not super glue. That didn't work. You have to use the Loctite outdoor super something to glue your screens in. And that's how you keep cats from busting out your screens. Because my cats love to be outside on the porch, but if they get outside, they'll run away. And there's coyotes in the area and stuff, and I don't want all that. So if I screen it in, then the cats can sit out there and bask in the sun and, you know, drool over the birds that come by, and I don't have to worry about them escaping. Yes, a catio. It's just like a catio, except for it's like attached to my house, and it's also a poopio. Maybe. So another thing, someone emailed me earlier a really awesome message, which I enjoyed reading, and sent me pictures of her pups, which was really awesome. And it made me realize you guys get to look at puppies all the time. Like, I mean, even though they just look like furry lumps right now, but I never get to see your pets. I don't get to see your pups, your kitties, your critters. So I'm going to put a link in the community section, and you guys can either send me an email. It's crimecraftsandfur@gmail. crimecraftsandfur@gmail. Send me pictures of your babies and make sure and tell me their names and your YouTube name. And we're going to put together a little montage of all of our babies. So when you're having a bad day and you need a little pick-me-up, you can go look up the eye bleach screen and just have that little refresher. Like, oh, cute, sweet stuff. Okay, I'm good. I can go back to life now. See? We're bonding. I'm serious. I love looking at them. And, you know, like the 3 people that are watching this stream, how many puppies can they have? But for those of you that don't want to email me, I'm going to put a link to a form where you can upload it anonymously, because I know some people don't want to use their personal email or whatever. I'm totally cool with that. And you can just upload it to a Google form thing that'll drop it in a folder and I can get it. Oh, I need to add your pets' names. Oh, I put a place for your names, but not your pets' names. Yes, I need your YouTube name and your pets' names so I can make a little thing. And also, if you haven't already done so, there is a video up where I'm giving away a craft kit or 2, or I don't know. All you have to do is go look at the follow-up stream and comment in the description how much child support does Mr. Johnson owe. And probably later tonight or tomorrow, I will put the raffle thing together and pick the winners. So if you haven't already done so, go do that, because free stuff. Plus, it makes a good gift. You can always have it on hand in case you want to send it to someone if you don't want it. Not everybody likes crafts, but you probably know someone who does. So, you know, you always have those teacher's gifts or whatever on hand that you, when you forget to buy something for someone for their birthday, just like, oh, by the way, hey, here it is. What did you say? Yeah, let's not just like go walking around taking pictures of random animals and stuff and people. Yeah, I mean, unless you want to, but don't like get arrested for it or anything. That's not cool. No, definitely not cool. There's been some messed up stuff in the news lately. Do you guys have any interest in like a our world's totally jacked up? Hey, do you want to see all the crazy crime stuff going on type news summary? Every week, someone suggested that to me. And I'm curious if you all would be interested in it. Kind of just a wrap up of what's going on with everything. There's lots of big trials going on that we can't keep up with. There's like the case, I don't know if you guys heard about it. There's a case that's not far away from me. I mean, not like right next door, but counties away, where the Uber driver pulls up to the house, Uber Eats, and they're speculating that it was an MS-13 gang member living there. He pulls him in the house, tries to rob him, somehow ends up killing him, and he ends up chopping him up, putting him in garbage bags along the side of the house. Like, and the cops find him like in garbage bags on the side of the house. Like, WTF is wrong with the world? Like, what? But you should see this guy, like tattoos everywhere. He's like 6'3" or 6'4", 250 something, like massive dude. So scary. And there was a family living there with him, like mom, dad, and a little 6-year-old girl. And they said that they were living there with someone else, renting a room because the market's terrible down here. And the dad was living there, and then the dad moves out and moves his son in. And what are you going to do? You know, you've got a lease. And they said finally they were just really creeped out and they left because they kept hearing weird noises coming from his room. It was him dismembering this, like, from all accounts, like really nice middle-aged guy who was just trying to make an extra buck delivering Uber Eats. And it really bothered me because I order Uber Eats all the time. So how is this gonna screw up people who were trying to make a living? Are they gonna be scared to work at night now? Because, I mean, it was just a normal delivery. There was nothing odd about it at all. And when he went to leave it on the porch, supposedly, well, the camera cut off, so they don't know for sure. But when he went to leave it on the porch, somebody yanked him in the house. Like, what? All right. If you guys are interested in it, let me know. I read the news. I keep up to date on missing persons cases and, you know, crime in the news and things like that. And I could easily put a stream together once a week or so just to kind of update everybody on what's going on, if that's something you guys would be interested in. Can't really think of anything else. There's nothing really exciting. Just trying to steal my identity back. Like, if you haven't done so, like, total public service announcement, if you haven't done so, go get some kind of credit monitoring service. Seriously. I used to always check on it periodically. And for a while I had the credit monitoring, and then it ran out, and I had a really bad year this past year, and I didn't keep up on it. And of course, that's when it happens. And the amount of work it takes to correct it after it happens is unbelievable. I have probably spent more than 60 hours, and I have accomplished nothing. Absolutely nothing. It is a nightmare. And I didn't have a really bad case, so I can't imagine people who, like, full on had their identity stolen with people filing tax returns in their name and stuff like that, how bad it must be. Like, whew. But you really should. I always said, it won't happen to me. Used to say that about my health too. I'm not getting disability insurance. I'm not going to be disabled. Yep. Karma got me on that one. Oh, thank you. I love you too. Even though I'm running out of things to ramble about because it's getting late. It's about crash time. All right, so I will put that link up in the description. Trying to think. I don't really have any good stuff in the works coming up. So yeah, that's a really good point. If you don't have stuff going on, you can just freeze it. Literally all you do is log on to their website and press a button and it freezes it. And it keeps anyone from doing it, because there was all these inquiries on mine too. Like the week before I froze it, it started going boom, 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 like everywhere. I guess they just all shoot out inquiries to see who's got credit and who doesn't, so we know who to steal from. I don't know how it works. I mean, maybe we need to find a criminal to come on and tell us what it's like, but it was sucky. Very, very sucky. I do not recommend it. So do what you got to do to keep that from happening, because, whew, yeah. All right, everybody. I hope you have a fabulous afternoon, and I will jump on tomorrow. I'll try and do it about the same time, around like 12 or 1, if that's good with everybody. And we can do that. Oh, geez. I can try, but there's a lot. If you look in my history, there's a couple of videos up there already. Those videos are a lot harder to do because you don't really have any video to show. And so you're basically talking, and people want to see what's going on. They want it to be visual. So you have to go try and find like B-roll film, like stock film of somebody doing what you're talking about to make it interesting. And it has to be close enough to what you're talking about that it's not going to give people the wrong idea. And yeah, it has to line up with what you're saying. And if you correct one thing, then you have to correct it here and here. And when I did the Invisible Man video, it probably took me 2 or 3 months to get that completely put together. But that also is because information was changing. I was getting information in about the same time. But I am working on I needed to prioritize a video for a Marine that was missing at Camp Pendleton in the mid-70s. So I will work on that, and we'll see what we can do. And then maybe we can start featuring a missing person or two every week, just to highlight what's going on. Because if you really pay attention to it, there are so many people that go missing every single day, and some of them show up and some of them never do. And it's really sad. It really is. Like, how do people just disappear? Like, no trace anywhere. Like, it boggles my mind. I mean, the only thing I can think is they're in a forest somewhere, and it's just their skeleton left, and they're buried. Because or in the ocean? Where else would they be that people would not have stumbled across them? Because people even go rummaging through the forest and hiking and off trails and stuff. So I don't know. But so many. Anyways, okay. You all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Later.